Take 3. Don't know why the last 2. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that I was moving my computer around and using it as a camera instead of what it really is, a computer. And today the goal was for me to share some ideas and techniques about how to be a little more creative in a right brain way, not a logical, rational, systematic way. And one of the simplest ways is to go from serious to silly, to do things unusual, to do things in weird, strange ways, like this magician gestures kind of hat indicates. One of the centers that I've been involved with in the past, based in Midland, Michigan, it's recognized by the t-shirt I'm wearing, the Creative Spirit Center. It was a place where people went to learn about art, various types of art forms, from visual to audible to physical. But the underlying current of all their courses was to get people to focus on creative spirit, getting the spirit when they needed it. Now, in the case of a highly logical type person or a highly rational or systematic person, that seems a little bizarre. So I've found it's not wise to do the same kinds of things with them in the beginning until they start seeing results. The idea that you might stand in a circle, which is one technique I've used quite often and seen others use as well successfully, instead of asking for ideas from the group one-on-one or from their sitting positions, is get them to stand up in the room, form a circle, and then use an object like this, or as I've learned over the years from many Native American tribes, they have things called talking sticks, which was a way of controlling speaking, or who spoke. And what you would do is use the talking stick, or in this case, a frisbee type object, a ring toss, and it's my turn, so I would share an idea. Then I would pass it to someone else, and they would pass it to someone else, and you'd pass it to someone else. And that adds an element of physicalness and activity and a dynamic that wouldn't be there if they were just sitting in their seats. Another object, same type of thing. Frisbee. Some organizations have, in the past, when team building was a quite common workshop that people had for their employees, they would have special phone bees, as I call these. They'd have their group name printed on it, and this was how they shared ideas. The focus was on the one person speaking and then the next person. Another thing I found over the years doing that is the use of props. Of course, the whole premise behind this series of 15 sessions was based on my book, Broken Crayons. And I would use these giant crayons to draw a point. I'm trying to create memories, unique memories, not just logical thoughts. Sometimes I would use to compare pencils and crayons. And if you watch young children in school, when they start in preschool or kindergarten, they've already been playing with crayons or markers at home or at preschool. But then you teach them how, then they go to school and they get taught how to use these things, pencils. Soon you see crayons being used like pencils, only writing with the point, always making sure that the wrapper is on, similar to these. Trying to stop that, trying to get people to be a little more free thinking. Yesterday's session, I talked about scamper, which is one of the most common techniques that's used, where you use different verbs to get people to think in different directions, different concepts, and change their mindset or their perspective. Now, in the case of scamper, You can scamper around, add the physical. I have found that the more you get people standing up after they're comfortable being with the group they're in, then you'll see there's a lot more activity. If you let it go on for very long, like 20, 30 minutes, then you're going to start to see one or two of the people kind of back up and watch. That's when it's time to change the activity. One technique I saw many years ago, and I've used it in different countries and had reasonable success with it, when I see the energy kind of waning, first thing we do is to get up. And I've mentioned before is the idea of using balloons, which I'll let this be a two-dimensional balloon, is I throw balloons around the room, and I have people blow the balloons up, tie them, and then bounce them around in the room. And I use that as a metaphor, or what I prefer to call a four-dimensional metaphor, representing idea generating more from the right brain than the left. There's no direct links. Things are bouncing around. Things are going in different directions. And the beauty in the room is, as the balloons are being bounced around, people are focusing on keeping the balloons up in the air, not falling to the ground. And what they're doing is demonstrating that they can support other people's ideas, even if they don't know what they are. So forth. Now, one of the exercises I have found to get people to stretch their imagination is one I've collected these called Useless Inventions. And once again, in groups of 3 to 5, preferably 3 to 5, preferably an odd number, so you don't have division splitting between them. There's always someone that casts the deciding vote, is to look at these, assign them numbers. I've got 35 specifically on this list, and give them randomly 5 different ones to then come up to choose one of them and then come up with an advertising or marketing promotion campaign for the product as if it really exists. And they must come from the point of, we manufacture this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, using an old cliche. And the first one on the list is a black highlighter pen. Well, IRS, not the IRS, but the CIA and many of those secretive agencies, you always, in television shows or movies, you see them blacking out. Well, in a way, that's a black highlighter pen. Or powdered water, something for the space program, is that you would have powdered water. Not saying it exists, I'm saying it could exist, or if it did exist. Another one, a silent alarm clock. Well, practical use for that would be people who are hard of hearing or completely deaf. Having a sound does no good, but to have the flashing lights or some kind of vibration, something else, or fireproof cigarettes. Those now exist. People have the electronic. So you get the point. It is to think unusual things. Start from the unusual and go further. It is easier to go from silly to serious than it is from serious to silly. Now, if you overplay it, then you get the people who resist you because they say, oh, all this creativity stuff is just silly stuff. It's not reality. You still need to take those wild ideas, of strange ideas, and tame them down into practical solutions. One of the quotes I liked in the very beginning when I first became aware of Alex Osborne and his book Applied Imagination, his belief was it is easier to take a wild, crazy idea and tame it down than to take a tame idea and make it exciting. So, let's look at a couple things. 1, make it physical. 2, make it colorful. 3, make it dramatic. 4, deliberately make it fun. 5, involve everyone in it for periods of time. Little 5-minute exercises, little 10-minute exercises. I've discovered that you start going down 12 to 15-minute exercises and things start to change. The energy and the commitment to it drop. The idea of using toys. One of the articles I'm going to post with this later that I wrote years ago from Silly to Serious and back, I was writing about things I was discovering that were very popular in the late 70s through the 80s or early 90s and now back again, especially with the Legos and serious play, is that you use props, you use toys. In the case of Lego, of course, you use the Lego toys, which is fine. But I found that Lincoln Logs, Tinker Toys, Erector's sets, any toys you can find in a Toys R Us store or something similar, and use them to get people to think metaphorically. How is this like so-and-so? How is this like Charlie and this like Susan? Maybe Susan is red-blooded, hot-blooded, and Charlie is cold-blooded or very cold in different things. Is to start getting people to express themselves by using props, using toys. If you can get them to sketch, to doodle, to draw, similar things can be. But it's easier to start with props and then go to drawing. Most people still don't feel comfortable in drawing unless they've been drawing most of their lives. In fact, if you ask people, can you draw? Many people still use that same line, at least in the United States, I can't draw a straight line. Well, I can't either, without a straight edge, or the use of a computer. I can get reasonably straight, but in reality, it's not going to be. So let's go back today. Think about using a combination of idea-generating techniques. If you call your session a brainstorming session, I can't get you to stop that. I wish I could. But brainstorming is one technique, one tool. And there has been a lot of work done by the Buffalo State International Creativity Studies Center in how to facilitate, how to lead brainstorming sessions, or what I prefer to use the term ideation sessions. And let brainstorming be one of the techniques. Then use Scamper. Then use alphabetizing, as I mentioned yesterday, in which you use professions, occupations, names of superheroes, and so forth, to get people to think away from their normal. Then you can use props and toys and get people seeing their problem as a story. And who are the main characters? Who are the protagonists? Who are the contagonists? What is the goal? And so forth. And one final one for today is to use the idea of a metaphor to get people to think about how can they improve their office. And once again, you randomly hand out cards, or you can have them on a list and let people choose one of their own. But one person or one team might get, your office is now like a zoo. So then they have to describe the office, describe the manager or the director, describe the employees, describe the actions and the goals. Another group might be, our office is like a kindergarten. Once again, describe the physical office, describe the activities, describe the director or manager, describe the people, and the outcome. If your office became like a kindergarten, at least for a morning, if not a full day. Many companies for decades now have been doing the casual Friday approach, or the whole idea of when I was a young architect working for Gunnar Burkitz, even then we wore ties. But I wore dark red shirts, dark blue shirts, purple shirts with the ties are just starting to get pretty wild and wide. Instead of the white shirt with the striped tie or the paisley tie or whatever the particular style was at the time. But then you have entire companies like a Google where people are dressed casually almost 100% of the time. Now you look at engineering companies, you look at specific kinds of construction companies. When they're not on the work site, they have a tendency to go back to the white, the blue, maybe a checkered or simple basic design shirt. Usually not ties anymore, but it's business casual. So the idea to get more people more right brain in their thinking is to make it casual. Now I'm looking at, I see a couple of people found me again after my 3 chaos tries. Hi, John, again. Talk to you tomorrow. And Miguel, once again, always glad to see you. And Thumb, one of the best visual graphic teachers I know of in the wonderful work he does at SIM and with his other clients in Singapore. Thank you for joining me. And tomorrow we go to session 8. Bye-bye.